Greetings. In the beginning, there was a void of any shape or form, and all that wasn't and all that was the same space. We represent that space with the element that we have without shape or form. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And in the midst of the darkness, God said, "Let there be light." Space. We represent that space of the element that, and there was light. And from there, the lands were created to separate the waters. We, being those that are of the earth, of all of those elements, we are the land, however unified and or divided. We are this today as a singular experience. Greetings and welcome to yet another expedition in the journey of life as you share with myself and Eli in the build. Today, we will speak about freedom. We will now come into the understanding not only of the concept of freedom, but also the true definition according to many allegories and even scientific evidence as to what slavery is. We will show these by example together. Let us dig in that, starting right now, which is, in essence, the only time that we have. Welcome and greetings, Brother Eli. I am hoping that you would open up the space with what you have come to share regarding what freedom is according to the Holy Bible and the Quran. This space is sacred, but our ears and our minds are open to what you have to share today. Welcome.
Blessings, brother, and thank you again. I would like to start off like I normally start off is I hope and pray the words that I share will not offend no one. We are not here to offend no one. We're here to just express and gentle breeze that God allow us all to enjoy when the environment is a little hot. And my apologies, brother. I do not have a Quran or a Bible, but I have something that resembles a Quran and a Bible. And to me, knowledge is a level of freedom. I will start off with the definition of freedom. The definition of freedom is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one without, or think as one once without hindrance or restraint. To me, knowledge is very important. It is a level of freedom. And this is one of my books that I love to read. I love to read things over and over and over again. So I like to share with you guys something that I've been reading for quite some time that gives me a little inspiration on how to truly be free. This is page 12. Conquering ignorance is essential. No one is born wise. A person has to make serious efforts to develop the qualities needed to be able to speak and achieve mayat without falling into the twin traps of vanity and greed. Every day, the ears or the living have to be made to listen to wisdom. If the teachings is properly understood, then righteousness will become a reality. Just acts conforming to the precepts of Mayat are born out of this understanding. A deed done without egotism is useful, shining an example to others, providing it obeys the golden rule to act for he who acts. The one who knows reality, the myths and the rituals, is how the Egyptian sage portrays himself. A vigilant heart, a plain tongue, capable of satisfying God and the gods, because his entire existence rests on knowledge and not on belief. I will repeat that again. He is capable of satisfying the gods and the God because his entire existence rests on knowledge and not on belief. An adept of calm and of silence, he distanced himself from the rash, the gossip, and the envious, accomplishing what is right, finding virtue in everything, never evading responsibility. So, this is another part that I will go into because I don't want to be too long winded. My apologies again. This is from another book, page 18. And these are axioms I read over and over and over and over again. It says, the human element was and is the most crucial factor in any government. People are capable of great good and great evil. In the ancient Kemetic book of Two Ways, it says that the causes of wrongdoing are ignorance and immaturity. So, to me, brother, on a simple note, is to be highly qualified to exist in a very complicated world. That is the beginning stages of what I consider freedom.
May the research and development of this experience, as told through Brother Eli, be honored. We thank you. I, brother, have scoured through so much of religious texts and allegories of fraternal means to come to the constellational definitions of what freedom is. But I believe that in order to give dimension to the definition of freedom, we must first also include what slavery means from the times of biblical and otherwise. And it is because of this that I have bring forth this understanding from this knowledge. The book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verses 44 through 46, is read as follows. Your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them you may buy slaves. You may also buy some of the temporary residents living among you, and members of their clans born in your country, and they will become your property. You will bequeath them to your children as inherited property and can make them slaves for life. But you must not rule over your fellow Israelites ruthlessly. The second passage I'd like to share talks about marrying a captive woman, as told in the book of Deuteronomy 21, verses 10 through 14. This is the New International Version of the Bible. When you go to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God delivers them into your hands, take captive. If you notice among the captives a beautiful woman, and you are attracted to her, you may take her as your wife. Bring her into your home and have her shave her head, trim her nails, and put aside the clothes she was wearing when captured. After she has lived in your house and mourned her father and mother for a full month, then you may go to her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. If you are not pleased with her, let her go wherever she wishes. You must not sell her or treat her as a slave, since you have dishonored her. The interpretation that has come from these words, from my understanding, are as follows. Collective midrash of rabbi spoke of these words in slavery, specifically those of wives to be taken in captivity. The two verses in between, verses 12 and 13, their intentions were that the human who has taken the prisoner captive were to shave the head of those beautiful women and have them for a month mourn who they have lost for the sole purpose of making the woman unattractive to the captor, so that his intention would be to free the woman. For we, in our human existence, tend to be swift to judgment and swift to actions in our freedoms that we assume upon others. Also, it is noted in the book of Leviticus, speaking of the children and the purchasing of slaves, that the slaves were treated in the same way as we are treated as employees within any corporation or business, any brick and mortar or virtual marketplace, that they were given fair wages, that they were given temporary residency, and that even there was a time limit allotted. Further on into the readings, you would find that it was for a time of 6 to 7 years in which debt would be paid if a family member were to owe an Israelite. This was an agreement and not done by force. They were even given the Sabbath off so that they could take the break and worship as they saw fit. That rest was very important in the Old Testament, and it is represented there. Now, that is just the Bible. Let us go to but one iteration of the Quran. In Hadith, chapter 30, there are some interesting sayings inside that book. One, that whoever kills a slave shall be killed. Two, that there is no expiation for hitting a slave except for freeing him. And three, that we are all slaves of Allah. Now, with the definition of slavery as thought of from the culmination of these books, it does not speak of chastisement. It does not speak of the quote unquote bucking of a person in front of their children to belittle them and take away their power as authority over their children as father or mother. It does not say of these perversions which were given upon the people by taking out the definitions and details of these examples of slavery in the Bible given to slaves through the transatlantic purchase of slaves, thus thought of as the slave Bible, which has been misinterpreted as the Bible itself. For if anything is taken away or added from the holy text, he who has authored that shall be written out of the book of life. We were given that as our life, that Bible that has been iterated in ways that would benefit those who handed that Bible to us, manipulated in a way that would enhance their life and decrease ours. That is more than just a slavery. That is more than just an imprisonment. That is more than just a sin. It is a murder of the mind to take away parts of knowledge for sake of the enslavement of other people through said perversions that were taken away from the provisions that were given in these texts. Now, the question that would arise would be, what is this minister saying? That slavery shall be condoned? No. What I am saying is, believe it or not, if you work at a place where your work is not considered worthy, if you are belittled in a place where you should be honored, if you are a person who is given to a spouse that treats you unfairly, that believes your body belongs to them, you are a victim of the perversions that man has put upon these definitions of slavery. So, what does it mean to be free? Some would consider that the freedom would be the complete opposite of slavery. However, we must understand and know that any extreme opposite is just as bad as the extreme for. Left or right, in its extremes, would destroy us. That extreme would be utter anarchy without order. Luckily, we live in a world that has many grays and is not just as black and white as the books that we read these allegory and teachings upon. And that space between is important in the human experience. So then, may I be the first to explain to you and to all that are in present attendance here that I have chosen to be, by this definition that we have now culminated, a slave of persons to many things. I am, in my physical body, a slave to time, for I cannot master it. I am a slave of persons to intelligence and fact, for I must, if it is brought upon itself to be true, agree to it. And there is no penance that would supersede that in my years. That I am married with a shaven head, no less, to the ideas, the facts, and the scientific evidence that is, was, and always will be. By my own volition, I choose this servitude as a man of service, as a person who will not rest until all understand that one is the biggest number and that we are not a part or individuals. We are one. It is hard work, harder than tilling of any field, than any culmination of cotton or any other work of elements. And it is something that I know no rest for, on purpose, because I have learned that to be my purpose. No one forces a man the cloth to be so. It is something that is sought by that man to do that work, to be given said wage fairly, to be given residency of sorts, knowing that everything here is indeed temporary and is not personal. That is a servitude that I gift to you. the viewer, the one that is here with me in the circle that is sacred that we have provided here. And the only thing that I would attest to is that my fair wages has brought me thus far, that the residencies, although as temporary as they have been, for I have lived many places, have been sufficient, and that anything that I have not earned, I did not earn them because I might not have deserved them due to the fact that I did not do all of the work deserving of such. However, this work is only for certain material things and tools. This work is more than just material things and tools to be earned. I only ask for the ether's respect. For though I believe in my limited understanding, I might not deserve such respect, which is the reason why I call said respect grace. Tomorrow, we will have a world divided. We will have people who will make it their business to not celebrate their idea of freedom in a very limited means. We have people who will boycott a holiday created by men with the purpose that they are fulfilling some order to bring punishment to a government that does not respect them, as if one day would overthrow such a government that knows all of the pieces of the chessboard and all of the moves thereof, and have planned so as any professional would play 10 moves ahead. We have on the other side of those people who will be doing the work of Allah, will be doing the work of Christ, will be doing the work of themselves as collection of the consciousness that is the ether of the Lord we speak of God, in meditation, in fasting, and in watching. For it is important that, as the book says, we watch and pray, but do not fight. We are also in the company of a world that is divided upon the idea that on the day after tomorrow, science will try again at having its way. For a company known as CERN will take electrons and shift them into what they believe will find another dimension, separating the lower vibration from the higher ones. And because of this, I have a question for you. Are you ready, whether or not this occurs? Which vibration do you choose to reside upon on not just that day, but every other? That is the work. That is a work without tire. That is a work that I, by my volition, utterly refuse to retire from. And to all who choose to retire from said work, I honor thee as well, for your work has been long, and maybe even if your work has been none, you have seen and witnessed for yourself those who have dedicated thousands of days towards said work to see no foreseeable result of what freedom should actually appear to be. I do not take that as a weakness. I take that as a part of this experience collectively, as part of the project, in hopes, in gratitudes, and in observation of what your findings are in that journey, because the burning bush of this accord will record all evidence scientifically given the time for the procedures to be done. We await your results. Brother Eli.
Yes, sir. They are firing fireworks across the street, so you might hear a little pop here and a little pop there.
Hmm.
Blessings to the young children. They're very young children, just enjoying themselves.
Hmm.
Martin Luther King said, "Freedom is never voluntarily given to by the oppressor. Excuse me. It must be demanded by the oppressed." Going all the way back to your opening statement when you was reading the Bible and when you was reading the Quran, I personally don't have enough knowledge to really give an understanding of the shaving of the head of the girls and the women and things of that nature. The reason why I say that is even in my lifetime, I lived and experienced 10, 20, 30 years may have went by, and newcomers used their present day understanding on something that had a different understanding in the past. Even the slang that we use, the slang we used in the 80s and 90s are not used today. So that's why I think exegeting the scriptures on some level, even though we cannot literally truly understand what they were doing at the time. But I can say this on the present state, dealing with the Tr1 collider. I have yet to recognize anything that the powers that be, I have never recognized them giving us upfront information. They have always given information 20, 30, or plus years later. There again, I cannot have a true understanding of what they are going to do or what they may have had already have done with the collider. But for a conversational purpose, I think it is fair for those who are diligent to be allowed to express their freedoms. Most people who are not diligent are enslaved. Most. When we look at the American history, we notice that even in the early 1500s, the 1400s, and other times, no matter what race the person was, if they seek knowledge and presented their knowledge to those who are in a position of power, that gave that individual freedoms. And that is why when you go to any country on the earth, you will find a black person being a ruler. And when you do a little more research in that particular time period, for the most part, you will discover that that person was a hard working, highly educated, consistent individual like existence itself. Even in today's time, when you look at those who are enslaved like those who may be in prison from selling drugs, look at the black community in particular. Let's look at the black community. In our time period, if you were living in a different country and you just so happen to look at the news or read the newspaper, in your mind, it would appear that the black man in America was some savage, angry, uneducated, mad person that is being abused by the white man. I cannot remember the name of the gentleman. You can look it up. You can do your part in the study of this conversation. It was a man in the 1800s. I believe he was a slave. He escaped as a slave. He went overseas. He returned to the United States. And eventually he became a senator. I think in the 1800s or the 1700s. It was a saying in the past, if you want to hide something from a nigger, just put it in a book. Prayerfully, niggas are reading. We are discovering new information that have not been shared in the past, like Israel Hill, like my family, who still have approximately 750 acres of land that is not being used. So when we look at the enslaved individuals, no matter the country, most to all were spending too much time in leisure. They were not up doing, creating, nor they were not building. Existence don't have time for foolishness, nor does it have time for laziness. You will be removed. Every enslaved situation, for the most part, if you study the people for more than 100 years and look at their activity, they were conquered, for the most part, by those who spent a little more time into learning and developing their mind and their culture. Let's use Japan, for example. The emperor at the time, when they got defeated by the United States, said, "We will focus our mind and energy on technology." Look at the Chinese. I remember when I was younger in the 80s, it was a lot of them in one apartment. But if you look at what they've been doing for themselves, studying, reading, traveling, and working. I remember a comedian said that the Chinese became wealthy off of rice and weaves. The weave industry creates or produces a lot of wealth. Blacks in America is reported to have a tremendous amount of money. And we have the evidence in the United States. If you want to go somewhere in life, come to the Black community, come to the ghetto, because these people are wasteful. They spend money, before they even have it. I remember I was reading the biography of Malcolm X. In the biography of Malcolm X, I think the Jews were selling suits. And the Jews started giving the blacks in their communities credit. And the blacks bought the suits despite not having the money. So if we look at life itself, even ants, you will see when the female ant or many ants are born, the queen immediately put them out. Nature give them wings, and they have to go find a place to cultivate for themselves. God help those who help themselves. All of us on earth have the same amount of sunlight and night. What are you doing with your time to free yourself? Somewhere, I think either it's in Mayat or it's in other ancient writings. I cannot remember. So I will paraphrase. They said, if you are in bondage to someone, work hard, be on them day and night, wear them thin, and they will set you free. It says, do not feel comfortable and do not be lazy. So these girls who had to shave their heads, they were conquered. Another reason that people married in the past, not physically married, but they were bounded to someone, even if they were 11 or 12 years of age. Because in their community, if someone is engaged to be married to someone, it would be hard for someone to just see them walking and snatch them up and to take that young girl because they was someone else's property. Not necessarily property in the sense of a shoe or a car. Well, maybe a car, because a lot of people, they admire their vehicles more than admire a human life or their own life. Side note, I remember when I was younger, I would tell people about eating healthy. And they would tell me that healthy food is expensive. And I would sit back in my mind and I would watch them go get a burger from McDonald's. And then when it's time to fill up the car, when you have a Mercedes Benz, you have to put premium gas in the car. So the person will put premium gas in the vehicle and they will put a hamburger in their own vehicle. So human beings have some changing. Well, they don't. They can do whatever they want. But brother, back to not be too long-winded. When the girls were enslaved and all those things were going on, I personally don't have enough knowledge. I know the evolution of marriage, and we may talk about that in the future, because it was a reason why things happen. For a small little note, it was a time when a man didn't have sons. He wanted to pass down the wealth to his children, and he may have had only daughters. And you know, if you're in a society that is ruled by strength, other than some laws or constitution, even in that movie, if you remember the 10 Commandments, when Moses, when he ran from Egypt, he was at this well and he saw these girls, 7 girls, they were being manhandled by two sheep herders. So you have two sets of sheep herders, two men and seven girls. And Moses saw that the men were feeding their sheep, even though it was the turn for the ladies, for their sheep to be receiving some water. So he used his physical strength to help them. And then after that, they went home to their father, and they told their father who helped them. So there's a lot of things in this world, and that's why in the East and other holy places, women are covered. I mean, we have this thing called sex trafficking. I hear women saying that they would like to end sex trafficking. And I ask them a question, well, what about Instagram? What about all these things, even your own self? You're wearing clothes that draw energy from a man, a particular energy. So are you lying to me? Or are you seeing me as some type of fool? What do you really want to do? I have noticed that women will spend hours in the mirror making sure everything is in its right place, knowing the power of imagery and knowing how men and women nowadays view the image. So you cannot lie to me and say that this, what we consider soft porn, is not a force to be reckoned with in America today. So there's this double tongue concept from beings who are not considered or considerate to the truth of Mayat and of life. So they can be bound and enslaved in a culture who may not respect or who may not be as caring as they supposed to be. Having this knowledge should make you change some things about your physical behavior, visual behavior, mental behavior, and spiritual behavior. But you don't change for the better. A lot of these attractive women are in the gym, which they should be, but then they go to church showing their artwork, meaning their bodies, either in a tight suit or a tight dress. And they wear shoes that is so loud that it will demand your attention when they walk down the aisles to look at them, because when their foot hit the ground, it sounds like a gunshot. Pow. So you know exactly what you are doing. So being enslaved, for the most part, can be from being a disrespectful soul in an existence that does not rest, nor does it exhibit ignorance. Existence is highly intelligent. Existence is very particular. Some say the devil is in the details, while others will say God is in the details. So we must do our work, because even when it comes to the Jewish culture, you work for 7 years or for 50 years, but you have to show work. Even on your job, when you do your best, yes, there is nepotism and cronyism at these jobs. But if you do your best and you're very consistent, like the sun itself, you will have some level of freedom, while others will not, unless they lie, cheat, steal, and murder. And that would be for a short time. So everything that we have observed in our present time cannot be fully understood if it happened between 4 to 6,000 years. But we do have a premise that we can stand on. But me personally, I know times will change a lot of things. Even in America, girls could marry at 12 and 13 years of age. It was normal. Now, how dare you get a 12 and 13-year-old person pregnant? So times will change and make things different. So I need enough time to get a little more understanding, to get a full opinion about that type of enslavement when it comes to the Bible, which is 4 to 6,000 years old, and the Quran, which is nearly 1,500 years old. Sorry for being long-winded, brother.
There is no apology needed. I have been incredibly blessed by every word that has been uttered today. And I hope that all others who have been here in this sacred space alongside us have been as well, to the point that it would not end here, that your search for truth, knowledge, wisdom, understanding does not end here, does not end at ears being heard of our words. We implore you to do the research, to do the work yourself, to bring back the idea and concept of collective consciousness being all in attendance on this planet, in this existence, and even any other, that the work be done by all. May that be something that is done by your own will, giving the true meaning of thy will be done. It is highly important that everything that is said to be true or factual be set on the path of it being proven wrong. And if, and only if, when it is proven to be true and factual, that we respect its title as fact and truth. Was it not Morpheus who says, I can only show you the door. You have to go through it. But the path is narrow. And that path calls for your steps to be taken with patience and grace and humility. Brother Eli, speaking of modesty and the true beauty therein, something that at one time was found more alluring than the revealing of any anatomical part of this suit we wear. I, too, see modesty as a very beautiful and splendid thing. There is a discipline there that is like few other. and it is highly respected in the collective consciousness here, for sure. So then, if nothing else, know that this is just the door opening. The sides of the screen are the sides of that door opening to you. May you go through it, void of fear, and find that truth and fact on the other side of this door. Let us join for a moment of silence. May it be so. As we come to a close, I'd like to once again thank Brother Eli for taking the time to spend with us here in the build. I see this brother has another branch of this burning bush. And that is the reason why we share in the ritual of the candle. Please join me, brother. And the saying goes, the candle cannot complain against
the
the
darkness,
hardness and the harshness.
It
Instead
emits
itself and
the
admits
to itself
that it is
everything
everything
it
that
ever
needed. It is the light.
We are
The
the light.
light. And as we bring forth the candle into our being, know that it is not extinguished, for we do not blow the candle out and away from us, but we take it in and pass it on in hugs and handshakes to others so that they too can join in the enlightenment of the bush. And with our hands and fingers, we take in the lamp. And we come to the understanding that we are the light because we are unharmed. Blessings. Lotus. Huh? Is it? Let me see. Some behind the scenes, I guess. True indeed. Well, let me say this then. As I have removed my ceremonial garb, you are seeing who I am as a person outside of the cloth. But that does not take away from who I am. Peace and blessings.